For more on this story, let's cross now live to London and bring in Marco Vincenzino, the director of the Global Strategy Project. Thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. Now, 4 finance ministers from across the globe will now be no-shows at next week's conference in Riyadh. How isolated does this make the Saudis, in your view?
Well, the outcome of this crisis will inevitably impact the course of future relations between the U.S., the West, and Saudi Arabia. There's no question about that. What happens here is that this crisis will also, it complicates and it threatens to derail President Trump's foreign policy in the Middle East and with Saudi Arabia, which basically had invested a lot of time, effort, and resources with the Crown Prince, specifically on issues like Iran, and when it comes also to Israel, to try to create peace in the region, and also to combat groups like ISIS. And also, it's specifically with the point of U.S. sales of U.S. products, particularly arms, about $110 billion, plus another $300 billion in products. That will impact, that means jobs in the U.S. So it's not just that it impacts, you're talking about isolation of Saudi Arabia, you're also impacting the domestic situation in the U.S., where the president is coming up with midterm elections, and also there's a growing bipartisan consensus in Congress to basically place sanctions against Saudi through the Global Magnitsky Act. So this is a very complicated situation. It's not just about isolation of Saudi. It's also about the U.S. domestically. Once again, also, if you look at Saudi has the ability to impact the international price of oil, which impacts the global economy. And plus, it's the birthplace of Islam. And those two factors alone give Saudi Arabia enormous leverage worldwide.
So in your view, Saudi Arabia won't actually be in any way worried by the fact that 4 of the world's leading finance ministers won't be attending this forthcoming summit?
It has to be worried, and it is worried. But the fact is that it's not completely isolated. But what happens is that if it reduces its status to a pariah state, that can complicate things, not just outside the country, but within it. When you have 80% drop in foreign direct investment over the past year, that'll impact your economy domestically. So it's the point I'm trying to make here. It's not just that we speak about Saudi isolation. This is within Saudi, between with its allies, and also if you look at the situation between Turkey and Saudi itself. The Turkish strategy here, it's been basically is to use a gradualist leak approach to Turkish media and international media to further pressure the U.S. into taking action against Saudi. So this is not just involved, once again, it's not just isolated to Saudi. This is a far more complicated geopolitical game involving the region and beyond.
I want to talk about the US now. Steve Mnuchin is, of course, one of the latest names to add to that growing list of people that aren't attending. But, of course, President Trump's administration is nevertheless preferring to hold its horses, so to speak, until a full investigation has been completed into this disappearance. What do you make of this rather mixed response in Washington at this hour?
Well, the administration is trying to buy time, and to buy time to see exactly what the facts are, and be able to at least try to have a what we would call a face-saving and least damaging exit out of this crisis. Damage has been done, and it's whether it's irreversible or not, or whether it's long-term, remains to be seen. But obviously, it's in crisis management mode right now, and it's once again, if you look at the U.S. situation, it's domestic and international. It's foreign policy in the regions at stake, and also domestically. If you look at, once again, the midterm elections, it's coming up in early November, and the fact that you have a growing bipartisan consensus in Congress that can trigger sanctions against a close U.S. ally, upon which the U.S. also relies upon for sales. So this goes to also, if you look beyond, it's a dilemma in U.S. foreign policy, basically since the end of the Cold War. It's national interest versus national principle. National interest can mean both your diplomatic and your economic interest. And then if you're looking at the fact is your national principles. You're advocating democracy worldwide. And this current crisis brings this all once again into the open. This happened during the Cold War, this debate. It took place even during the Arab Spring, and it continues to take place. This is just another episode.
Marco Vincenzino in London, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. Thank you very much.